Hey everyone, Trace here. We're going to do part 2 of the Memento Ink Design Team Challenge, which is using one pack of paper to make as many cards as possible. I am definitely shooting for 200 cards, and we are going to go through 10 of those different designs today. There are 20 in all. Part 3 will be the remainder 10. And so let's get started. So we're going to do this design here. I know it doesn't look much. The green part is the designer series paper, and you need a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square, which is here. That is also in the plans here, a 2.5 inch square. Okay. Then we're going to use the All is Bright stamp set from Memento Ink, the Merry Christmas stamp. We're going to need some Memento ink, some scissors, some foam tape, some Sequins, art glitter glue, a 2-inch scallop punch, and a black Jelly Roll metallic pen, a pencil, and if you want to use an angle punch, I used an angle one for this particular card to go around the edges, and I used the 1/2 inch side. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is punch a hole in your 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch piece of paper. And it's a little fiddly, it just fits. Try to center it as much as possible. Go ahead and punch that out. And this piece we're going to use for a different card. The next number 2 and number 3. We're going to get 2 different cards out of that, believe it or not. Okay, so next you're going to put some foam tape on the back. You don't want to have any of it showing. I'm going to cut some of that off. Okay, so next you want to take your pencil and you want to determine where you want the image to be. Probably around there. You're going to take a pencil and just make slight little notches around the edges so you can actually see where that is going to be. We're going to stamp right in that section where we see I've marked off. So just center it right. Get some more ink. Just center that in those markings there. Press down, nice and firm. Okay, now you can erase those marks. Okay. Next you're going to just take the backing off, the foam tape, and if you were to put the angle punch the edges of this piece here, do that before you put the tape on. And then just center that up. And next you want to put on your sequins anywhere you like. I do like to do a series of 3. small little bit of glue. Very small. Very small amount of glue for these. And that will dry clear. Okay, and I also made a bow out of some twine. I do the old-fashioned bunny ear tying, but it works for me. Make a bow. Going to even up those tails. Just twisting a little bit, so I like to untwist it as much as possible. And add some glue. And that glue will dry very quickly and clear. Thank goodness. Next you want to add some stitch markings. So take your gel pen, just go along and add some marks. Next you want to glue on the card base. Just a little bit of glue, don't use a lot. Even that up. Okay, and there you have it. What would have been a negative space, probably the trash that you can actually make a card out of. And here are all of the other 9 different varieties. I added a ribbon here. This one I just angled. And a ribbon with a bow. This one I added some candy canes to form a heart. And all of these are the different types of paper. This one was an extra one. I happened to have a star punched out of it, and so I did the exact same concept, just using the star. Then we'll move on to number 2. Okay, card number 2 is a door with a wreath and a bird. This was a really fun one. You're gonna love this one. So what we needed to do was to create this wreath with this little sign, this Merry Christmas sign, and I couldn't find a Merry Christmas small enough, so I combined 2 of the stamp sets here. This one here is Deck the Halls, and it has the word Christmas, and that is what the size I needed. But I really wanted the word Merry along with it, so I went searching and I found this word Merry on this stamp here with Christmas stitch shapes. So I selectively inked just the Merry and created the Merry Christmas on here. And that was just the size I needed. So, and then you also need the Brutus Monroe circle dies. I'm using, let's see, second from the smallest. And so you're going to need that one there. And I decided to also stamp inside a sentiment. I thought what was perfect with the door picture was this stamp here, made with love stamp set. So I combined from our home to yours, and we'll be stamping that on the inside. I thought that goes pretty well. Okay, so to create the door, you're going to need 4 panels that match your card front. Here I'm using white, and so here are the measurements. The smaller panels on the bottom are 1.5 by 2.25 inches, and the top 2 panels are 1.5 by 1 3/4 inches. So we're going to put that sample right here. So I've cut those out. The first thing you want to do is create a doorknob, and a brad works really well with that. You want to use your Pokey Tool and create a hole with that, and put your brad in there and lock it down. Make sure there is no metal sticking out. Then you want to go ahead and put some foam tape on the back of all of those panels. And you want to take off the back and place those down. So I've got those panels down with foam tape. Then next you want to create your wreath. So what I did with the die cut is ran it through my Big Shot, and remember this was the piece from card number 1, so I just centered it in there, die cut it out, and now I have a circle which is for card number 3. So we're going to use this as the wreath, and we are going to attach that onto card approximately. You don't need a whole lot of glue, so approximately center towards, maybe a little higher. Okay, then you want to create your little sign. I just cut it really close to the edge here, and then I banner cut the end just slightly. Then you want to glue it onto a backing here, just a small little piece of red. And go ahead and cut around that just slightly so you do see the edge of the red. I think that makes a difference in appearance. Okay. So next you want to glue that on. Let's see, just put just a small amount of glue because it is popped up, but you're going to angle that a bit. Okay, next is my little bird. I did add a little bit of foam tape to him because it is popped up behind him, and he needs a very, very small piece. Because you don't want to be able to see it. I add a little bit of glue to the feet. Okay, there's the bird. And that was from a Stephanie Bernard Sizzix die cut that I cut that from. So next is a bow. And I just created a little bow. I'm going to cut those tails afterwards because I want it about the size of the wreath itself. So I want to make sure that it's the same height. So we'll go ahead and cut these tails. That. Make sure that's nice and stuck down. And that's almost finished. Then we're going to just add that to the card base. Before we do that, we are going to stamp that sentiment that I felt was really appropriate here. So I put it on the block, from our home to yours, using some Memento. And I already have the word Merry Christmas on the front. We could add another Merry Christmas as well. It's down nice and firm. Great, I think that's really cute. Okay, next you want to just glue this down using just a small amount of glue. You don't want to oversaturate it or it will buckle. Okay. There you have it, card number 2. And here are the other variations in the different DSP paper. I did a few in brown, craft color, and white, and red. Okay, moving on to card number 3. Okay, card number 3 is using the circle that you just created from card number 2. And it's going to write out joy, and I'm going to stamp to the world. And so what I did is I had a candy cane die that I just cut out of the striped paper from the designer series pack there. And so we're just going to glue him down. And the circle to create the O. And we're going to stamp the Y from the stamp set Joyful, and it's the Y here. We're also using, to create To the World, I had to use some of my letters from an old stash. I'm not even sure where I got those, I've had them a while. But the 2 in the 2 is from here, which is Made with Love, and the word the, was Pray for the Cure stamp set. Okay. And next we're just going to stamp the Y, and the Joy to the World. Next you want to attach a bow and add some stitch markings around the edges. Then you want to attach that to your card base, and then it's finished. So here are the other variations on different colors. This one happened to be perfectly aligned onto his face. That was really good. And that's those. Next will be card number 4. Okay, number 4 for our card is this banner one, and we're using 3 different strips, and that will be on your template. It is right here, 1 inch by 4 inch. So the first one is 1 inch by 4 inch, The second one is you'll have to cut a small part off of another one, so that way 1 inch by 3 1/4. Then the third is 1 inch by 2 inch, and you can probably get 2 banners out of this one, cutting that in half. So then you want to banner the ends. Just cut straight in the middle and go from the corner in and the corner in to make a nice banner. And I stamped a sentiment. It's the most wonderful time of the year with this stamp set here, Winter Wonderland, stamp right here, and I backed it with some red cardstock for a backing. And this one's really easy to assemble. Just go ahead and glue down your banners. Okay, so I glued down the banners and the sentiment, and I went ahead and put some snowflakes that I punched out with some sequins in the middle, and added the bow and added it to the card base. So that one's complete, and here are the other variations. And you can really do a lot with that. Those are so much fun. And you can play around. I tried to coordinate the elements. If there's a flower there, so I added a flower and a snowflake. So just kind of pull out what is in the paper. And also added sequins and bows. And here is just a strip of black. And those are really fun. Next will be card number 5. So the measurements for this box is the largest box is 1 inch by 2.5 inch. Then the cover is 1/2 inch by 2 3/4 inch. Next up is 1 inch by 2 inch, and that cover is 1/2 inch by 2 1/4 inch. The top box is 1 inch by 1 1/2 inch, and that cover is 1/2 inch by 1 3/4 inch. Okay, so let's assemble this. The assembly is pretty simple. You do have to do a little bit of sequencing. What I was doing is you need a little space on the bottom here to put your twine through. So when you're gluing, you want to just do these 3 sides here and don't do that one. So just put that down towards the middle, and you should have an opening at the bottom, and take out any glue that seeps through. I just used my fingernail. So then the cover, you want to do the opposite. You want to expose this top part because we're going to be tucking in the next box underneath. So you want to do 3 sides of that, and you just want to do just the slightest amount of overlapping because we want to optimize the paper as much as possible. So now you have a little gap at the top. So the next box, you want to cover that completely with glue, the whole thing, and you're going to tuck it just slightly underneath the cover there, just enough to cover it up. And go ahead and take up as much glue. Next cover, you're going to do the same way. You're going to expose just 3 sides here, and you want to leave the top one open. And you're going to again overlap just slightly. Putting a little bit too much glue, just don't need a whole lot. Then the next box, enough glue for the whole thing. Tuck it underneath. Here we go, just slightly. Glue it down. Now the last one, it's completely glue, the whole thing. And cover just slightly. Okay. Now for the twine, I cut just enough to go through the whole boxes here. And you want to put a small amount of glue on the bottom. Take your Pokey Tool and you're going to lift up that and tuck that in just slightly. Make sure it's centered in the middle. Use your tool if you have to get in there. Now I just pull it up a little bit, and there should be a little glue extra seeping through. Go ahead and use that glue to glue that down. Next, I just put another dab of glue on the top and make sure that's nice and straight. Just glue that down. Pretty cute. Next is your bow, and I went ahead and made a bow ahead of time. I'm going to even up these strings a bit. And glue that bow into place. And very, very cute, very simple. And it definitely uses your 1-inch strips. So cute, and you can mix and match any of the papers. And so the next step is to just glue that right down onto your card base on the front of it. And I went ahead and found from May's stash the very perfect sentiment for the inside of this card. It is from the Sleigh Ride stamp set, and it reads, "As you wrap each pretty gift with ribbons, strings, and bows, don't forget the greatest gift was wrapped in swaddling clothes." Just perfect for the inside of this card. And I stamped that with the VersaFine ink, and we'll go ahead and attach that. And then the other 9 of them, these were really fun. You can just so mix and match any of those papers. And here they are, the other variations. So fun. And some of these are really good for male cards because if they're the plaid. This one I just used all plaid, so that would be perfect for a masculine card there. And so next we're going to be moving on to card number 6. So card number 6 is utilizing a lot of your little bits of scraps. It's 1-inch by 1-inch squares, and it's very, very simple, and you just mix and match any colors. That's what the beauty of this paper pad is. They all match. So all you have to do is cut them into 1-inch squares and glue them on. I overlapped the top and the bottom one to fit it on the card. Then I also glued on, I felt there was a little space here, so I put one on the edge here from the corner to corner, and I cut off the excess. So let's go ahead and put this together really quickly. Overlap the corner just a tad, and so glue it down completely. Match up those points. This is a really quick one. And when it's finished, it almost resembles argyle print. Put a little bit more glue here. Okay, go ahead and glue this one down into place. All you need is half of this one. I just felt that that needed just a little something right here, and I had so many little scraps left over. And now just cut off the excess from the back here. And here. Then for the sentiment, I used the Happy Holidays from this set here. The Made It set, Uplifting, has the Happy Holidays here. I just liked that it was a vertical. So I'll use some VersaFine, ink that up really well. It's a fairly large stamp. And position it. Stamp that down. Stamps perfectly. Now for the last step, I used this Uniball Deluxe Fine pen, and I did stitch marks all around the edges and around every square here, and that kind of makes them pop and look kind of like argyle pattern. And then when that is finished stitching, I'll go ahead and attach it to the card base. And here are the other variations. You can use any of the background colors. This one I put on a banner because it was on the black. Fun. Next we'll move on to card number 7. Card number 7 utilizes a strip of paper that is 1 inch by 5 1/4, which you should already have cut out, and a little bit of ribbon. And these are the bells that I pre-cut. Card number 7 uses a strip that is 1 by 5 1/4, which you should already have cut, and a little bit of ribbon. And we are using the stamp sets G's Teddy Bear Lane. The part here, this is Jingle All the Way, and Sleigh Ride, which is this gorgeous bell here. And I had pre-stamped that in the very beginning, so those are all set. I did color them in and added a little bit of sparkly gel pen, so those are already cut and colored. I'm just going to even some out a bit. And for the sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and mount that onto a backing here. Okay, cut that off even. Okay, that's all set. And just attached the strip right to the side, and I'm going to attach some ribbon. And you can put the ribbon up, down, middle, anywhere you want to. I figured that the ribbon was a nice thing to have something different on there. This one here's probably a pretty masculine card. I'm not going to add any sequins to this one, but some others you'll see in a minute. I did add some sequins. Just cut off the edges here. And this one I'm going to put in an angle. And I'm going to attach the sentiment at an angle as well, right underneath it. Okay, then I'm going to attach that, glue that down onto the card base, and that one is finished. And here are the other variations. See, I added some sequins here. And this one I added some snowflakes to pull out the snowflakes on the paper. This I added some ribbon with polka dots. Some red ribbon here. This is just a strip of black paper that was extra. Some more ribbon. Fun. So moving on to the card number 8. We are definitely moving along. Card number 8 is an angel, and what you're going to need is a 1-inch punch for her head, a 15/16 inch star punched out of glitter cardstock. You're going to need a piece of white cardstock, which is 2 by 2 3/4. That's for her dress. And I have a sentiment here, rejoice. And I stamped those out individual letters. And I have some baker's twine for a bow. So what I did for the dress is it's 2 inches wide. So I figured I wanted a little bit wide at the top and then tapered down wider. So I marked it off 1 inch at the top here with a pencil, and I also marked 2 other markings. And the 1-inch one you're not going to need so much if you put these other 2. So it's 5/8 inch a mark, and then 1 3/8 inch. And so what you do with that is you put that in your trimmer, and each side marks here, put that on the line for the blade here, and you're going to also line it up with the corner of the bottom, so it's going to cut an angle for you. And you really have to be very specific. And don't throw that away. I really have some plans for that. And there's one more here. There's a mark here, so level that off with your blade marking here, and cut that at an angle. Then I can just, the mark that I made at the center, you can either erase it or just flip it over and use this side. So that's your dress. And for the wings it's just half of a 2-inch scallop punch. So if you are punching out multiple of these, you can get more than just the 10 cards because you have the other half. So I went ahead and glued down the wings first. And my samples I already did a lot of them on this side, most of them on this side. I'm going to switch it up a little bit, put her on this side here. So about there is where I'll put the wings. And very simple, her head is just a circle. Put that there. And her dress that we created. So right here, overlapping that just a little bit over her wings. And the star I'm going to put off to the side here. Very simple to assemble. And the sentiment rejoice. here. And I did attach a few sequins. Just randomly put them on the page, giving it a little bit of sparkle. Sequins are very fiddly. They have a mind of their own, I think. And one more. Okay, and then we're going to also attach a bow. I'm going to even up those strings. Just a little bit of glue. Really, really simple card with just a few punches. Now I'll attach that to your card base here, and here are the samples, or the other cards I should say. That one was my sample. Really, really fun. Mix and match all the colors. Using just a small amount of this designer series paper here, you can create a really nice card. And moving on to number 9. Card number 9 is a weaving effect with your strips. You're going to use 2 of the strips that you cut, but you're going to cut them in half. So this is a 1/2 inch by 4, there's 2 of those, and 1/2 inch by 5 1/4, so there's 2 of those. So you want to lay them out the way you want it. Now to make the weaving effect, it's easiest to move the smaller ones than the larger, so I keep the long ones in place, and so the short one you want to go over the front one, over this one, and under this one. So that one's all set. Now this one's under already, but you want to go over, so just sneak it around, put it back up there. So now it's a little weaving effect. To glue this down, you want to kind of keep them in place. I hold this little square of them down, and so the very first one out here, I attach some glue to the back, and I make sure it is straight before I glue that down. Now it's only glued down from here. So then I go to this top one, lift that up just a little, add some glue. I also sneak a little bit of glue under this here, just a little bit. Okay, now I want to attach that top corner here, so that's all attached. All the rest is not yet. Next I want to do the second long strip in the similar manner. Lift that up, add some glue, make sure it's straight down, press it down. Then I go ahead and sneak a little glue here while it's in place. Then I add some glue to this top one. And the last one here, you don't want to pull that out because it's difficult to get back on. So just add some glue to that. Make sure it's straight. Then one more spot, this little edge behind this, I like to add a little bit of glue. If you can get down under there, just to secure it. Really a cute effect and very simple. Then for the sentiment, I wanted to use the "'Tis the Season" part here, but it says "Bling It On." I don't want that part, so I'm going to selectively ink just the "'Tis the Season" part. And so to do that, you just tap it into that ink, just that word, leaving that the rest what you don't want exposed. And if you happen to have any on there, just wipe it off and stamp that down. Ooh. So I accidentally let go of that and created a part that I don't want there. But that's no problem. What we're going to do to fix that, any imperfections or stamping imperfections can always be fixed by covering it up. What I may do is attach some sequins to there, or possibly a ribbon. I will be right back. So I fixed that little mistake with some large snowflake sequins, and it covered it up pretty well. So I'm kind of glad that happened, to show you basically how to fix those problems. So even when you thought, oh no, I had to do that over, we covered it up, no problem. So here is the other variations without the sequins. This was a fun little weaving technique, using up those strips. Okay, we're going to move on to card number 10. So this final card, card number 10 for this part, is one of my favorites. He's so cute. It's a snowman, and it does have a lot of parts and elements. The stamp sets that I will be using are Christmas stitch shapes, and the part that I need here is the button that's right here, and so I stamped out 3 buttons on his belly. Then the Happy Tree stamp set, I used this smiley face down here for his face. Then the sentiment is Walking in a Winter Wonderland, and that is from Winter Wonderland stamp set. And the last one is Wonder. This is a really large stamp set. It's gorgeous. We're going to use this swirl right here for the hill. That's the stamp sets. We did use a good bit of punches. So you're going to need a 2-inch punch for his belly and a 1.5-inch punch for his head. And this recollection stamp of punch is a 5/8 inch punch of a snowflake. And this one has no markings. I don't know the size, but it is a Martha Stewart snowflake. We used all of those and some ink. And of course our cardstock, our DSP cardstock. So let's get started on this one. So from one of your strips, you want to, it's a 1-inch strip. You want to cut a piece that is 2 1/4 this way, and then you want to cut it in half, so it's 1/2 inch. And then you want to cut it at 1 inch, and then the remainder will be the 1 1/4 inch. So those are your 2 pieces for your scarf. You're also going to want to angle that each end. I'm trying to decide which part of this pattern I like. So just angle that a bit. So that's a scarf ready. So the first thing I want to do is stamp out the hill. So you want to use this long stamp here, and I inked up maybe half of it. I wanted that curve right here to put on his stomach or belly part right here. So once I inked that up, I do want to put a piece of paper down because I have to overlap. So I make sure I'm inked. And approximately here, you want to ink down. This is a really beautiful set, stamp set. Okay. So that gives you my hill. Next I want to attach, and I did this in blue cardstock, as you can see. I felt that that would be the blue sky behind him, and it really looks great. So I want to attach his belly to this curve here. And again, I stamped out some buttons on his belly. So before I attached his face, I do want to put the scarf down. And so I just kind of position the scarf about there, and this part of the scarf here, because I'm going to also cover it up with the rest of his face. So about right there is where I'm going to attach the first part of the scarf. Then overlap the smaller piece. Okay, then attach his face, which I also stamped his smile ahead of time. And I also cut out a triangular shape out of some orange cardstock. So that will be his nose. And you want to attach that nose sticking out as if he's looking up. Each of my noses are a little bit different shape, but that's good. So cute. Next I attached some snowflakes. Kind of overlapped this a bit. Can cut that off after. Just randomly put the snowflakes and I also attached some clear sequins, giving it just a little bit of sparkle, and that glue will dry clear. And one more small one. Okay, and almost forgot the sentiment. Let's ink that one up. And attach glue. And stamp that down towards the bottom. And my little trick, if I don't quite stamp it perfectly, I use a pen to darken the spots up that didn't stamp very well. And it looks like I got a little ink right here. I am going to attach another snowflake, another sequence there, just to cover up that little mistake. We can deal with those mistakes pretty easily. Great. Next is just attaching it to the card base. And we're going to cut off this excess snowflake that is coming out here. He is so cute. So here are the other cards. One of my favorites in this series for sure. But there are more to come. Okay, so this is the last of this part. There is going to be a part 3, so make sure you tune in for that, not to miss the remainder 10 designs. And thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a great day. Bye.